So we have a Ford Explorer here that has a typical transmission concern where when you shift the lever, the indicator is not aligned. There's reverse, there's neutral, there's drive, there's 2, and there's 1. So what is the problem? Okay, the complaint is the indicator is not aligned. We got to diagnose this. All right, so our first step that you could do before you even get out of the car is verify, does it start in park and does it start in neutral? So let's try that. So that's all the way up. Okay, so it cranks in park, good. And then it should not crank in reverse. And then it should crank in neutral, okay? So we already know we can start the car in neutral and we can start it in park. We could check reverse by checking our backup lights. So Mr. Lear is gonna walk to the back and see if I have backup lights.
Oh yeah, you got them.
Okay, so now there's 2 adjustments that we could do on this indicator, okay? We could adjust it by a little knob underneath the console here. We'll do that last. What you do first is you always adjust the shift linkage. Adjust the shift linkage, then adjust the indicator. So the adjustment underneath the steering column here is only the indicator, not the cable. The adjustment we're going to do underneath is the cable. So you always adjust the cable first. The next thing we need to do is we know now we're gonna adjust it in neutral, or adjust the cable assembly. Okay, so you always adjust it in neutral, always neutral. So I know this is neutral here because I can go and I can crank it. Okay, so here's our shift cable coming in. This is our shift lever. We could verify neutral by popping this lever off, and then we should be able to go reverse. And then there's park right there. Park's going to be spring loaded. It's the only one that's spring loaded because I would have to actually turn the drive shaft. So I'm going to do that real quick. So I'm going to go back to the back here, and I'm actually going to remove my wheel chucks. Okay, so I remove my wheel chuck in the back, and I just rock this car back and forth, and we're in park because it's not moving. Okay? Neutral. I can come up here. I can shift it to reverse. Neutral, and now I should be able to roll this car any direction I want. Okay, so we'll just go a little bit more forward. That's good. All right, so now we know we're in neutral here. Again, park is spring loaded, reverse, neutral. Okay, the next step is to actually pop our shift linkage off the adjustment. So I'm going to take a pocket screwdriver in here, and I'm going to pull this little plastic clip up. Dirt on there, which is pretty common. So we're going to do another thing. We're going to actually take this cable out of the bracket and bring this bracket down, and then we should be able to get at this. So I got a bigger screwdriver. Now I can get underneath there, and I could hopefully pry that up. This is a really old vehicle, so everything's brittle. I'm trying not to break this, which is something that can happen, and I'm buying a cable in addition to doing this adjustment. So, there we go, got that popped out. So now, because that clip's popped out, here's your adjustment, okay? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna actually put this back in. And then we're going to pop the cable into the bracket. We're going to shift this cable now, or move this cable. You can see how it moves the adjustment. And we're going to snap that back on to the shift linkage. Then we're going to put someone up in the air, and we're going to have them hold it center in the neutral position. And let's make sure I'm in neutral again. Oh, there we go. All right. So that's neutral right there. Okay, so let's try it again. So again, you got that adjustment down there, and now since I have it in a neutral position here and I know I could start it, I'm going to go underneath the car and pop that clip in. Up inside the vehicle, we were able to get it centered on a neutral position and start the car. So we know that this is the lever on the transmission's in neutral. So all we have to do now is just push that clip in right here. You want to make sure it goes all the way in so it's flush. And it looks like it's all the way in. So that is our adjustment. We shifted it up inside the car to neutral. We shifted this to neutral, and then we popped the clip in, and we're good. The thing that's left is to verify it starts in park, verify it starts in neutral, and verify the backup lights are on in reverse. So let's do that. So we're going to try and park. I'm not really happy where it is on the park position. We're still not on the P right there, but we could try to start it. It starts. Let's go to neutral. It's much better in the neutral position. We're still kind of a little bit off. Starts in neutral, but we're a lot better than we were before. And now let's check our backup lights. Walk to the rear.
Yeah, both on.
Okay. So you could see that we're not completely in the park position, but it gets better when we get to the reverse, neutral, drive, but it's not ideal and there's some play. So I took apart my steering column down here. I had to take off a cover, the metal plate, and I loosened up the column so we could take a look at this. And you can see, now you find the cable right here, this little wheel right here is the adjustment for your indicator. The problem is this little adjustment is broken. You could adjust your indicator with this little wheel right here, but the problem is our bracket that holds this cable is broken. You can see at the top the little white piece right here. That little white piece should be part of this bracket coming off. So we need a new shift indicator cable, and this is a very common problem with Ford. Is these shift indicator cables, the mounting bracket breaks, and most dealerships will have this in stock. But let's go ahead and see if we can adjust it. Bring it up here, and I'm gonna see if I can adjust it a little better. Yeah, see, it's not doing anything. As a matter of fact, I can move my cable back and forth right here. Look what I'm doing underneath, and the wheel no longer works. What works is sliding that cable in and out, and that should not happen. So we need a new shift indicator cable and bracket assembly, and that will solve our indicator problems. Okay. All right. So I want to show you what I removed in order to get access to that shift indicator cable adjustment. First thing I had to remove was my cowling. I should have cleaned my hands. You don't ever want to work with an interior with dirty hands. But this is just a shop car. We had to remove 2 screws here that are a Torx socket, a T20. Or it was a 7mm, I believe, socket assembly. Yeah, 7mm, either one, 7mm or a T20 Torx. We also had our hood release lever here. That was held on by 2 screws right here. So we had to take off those 2 screws and remove our hood release lever. Underneath this was this metal bracket. We had to remove 5 8mm bolts to get this metal bracket or metal cover off. And then after that, then we had to just use a Phillips screwdriver and remove this cowling from the steering column with 3 screws that were Phillips. And that was all it takes to get access to that adjustment underneath the steering column. Not a lot of room underneath there, but you got to remove this stuff to get access to it. So we already adjusted our shift linkage. We try to adjust our shift indicator cable. That is broken. That needs to be replaced. But I want to go over some other external adjustments on transmissions. The first one is your your transmission range sensor right here. So I have the vehicle shifted into neutral, but these, and the cable's adjustable, but these are adjustable too. So I'm going to take off this nut right here. I'm going to hold it in neutral. Make sure I'm going the right way. Okay, take this nut. Okay, and I'm going to pop that linkage off now at the top. And you can see on here, and let me get the light up here, that you always adjust your transmission range sensor. It used to be called a multiple position sensor, and there's some other names, but you always adjust it in neutral. Okay, so right now I must have moved that lever, so I'm going to grab that lever again, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So put this back on here. I'm going to shift it to, yeah, see, I was in drive. There's the spring-loaded part. Now let's go to reverse. Let's go to neutral and pull this lever off. And the way you shelve the neutral safety switch or the transmission range sensor is you have a line on the black right here of the sensor, and then you have this white collar with a line. Those should be adjustable. I'm going to show you how you adjust it right now. Go ahead and loosen this up, this 8mm. You don't have to take them off. Loosen this one up. And again, this is a very old car, but you should be able to move this collar now of the sensor on the slot. And it's a very small amount of adjustment they give you. And all you really do is shift the transmission in a neutral with the cable disconnected, and then line up that line perfectly with the white collar here to the black line right here, and you tighten this down. So these things go out all the time because they go bad all the time, and they cause a host of transmission problems when these go bad. And it's usually because they got oil leaking on them, or something came up from the road because this is exposed to the road and hit it, or they just go bad over time because every time you shift the transmission, you're shifting the mechanisms inside here, and they go bad, and it'll cause delayed engagement, harsh shifting, late shifting. It'll actually like hunt for a gear. So these transmission range sensors go bad a lot, and it's a very easy replacement. I just take off these two 8mm screws, unplug it, and take this off, put it on, but you do got to adjust it into neutral. So now I can put my lever back on right here. Use my air ratchet. There we go. It doesn't have to be too tight. And I'm gonna, that's park, reverse, wait, park, reverse. Oh, we must have shifted it to drive upstairs. So when I took the nut off, it must have shifted the cable to drive. So that's in drive now, it's not in neutral. But I know that the sensor is adjusted to neutral. So one last external adjustment we could do on transmissions is a band adjustment. And this is a 5R55E, and it has two band adjustments, one right here and one up front here. This is the overdrive band. This is the intermediate band. The only reason why I would adjust these bands is if I had a shifting concern. I would not do this as regular maintenance. Stud is the adjustment, and this is the lock nut. So I want to break that lock nut free and hold the stud. There we go. So now I have to adjust this afterwards. That's why it's imperative that you know how to adjust these, because there are times when you got to remove these neutral transmission range sensors or neutral safety switch. Get a screwdriver. There we go. And now I'll have access to that band assembly. Okay, and we already know how to adjust our neutral safety switch, so I'm not worried about that. Grab my wrenches. I'm gonna hold that lock nut, the adjustment stud there, and put my wrench here and break that free. All right, we're ready to adjust it. So I'm gonna spray these because I'm gonna have to have a little bit of play or free movement on this. And I do have to back this nut off a lot more because I'm gonna have to run these in. So I'm gonna bring these out a lot more than they were because I need a lot of adjustment ability. And you'll see why. Here we go. Now let's do this one. So here's the procedure. We're going to run the adjustment studs, which are 3/8 square hex tips. We're going to run them down to 120 inch-pounds, and then we're going to back each one off 2 full turns. So here we go. So let's go ahead and we're going to put this at 120 inch-pounds. 130. We want 120 inch-pounds, which is 10 foot-pounds. Okay, and so now we put this up here. I don't like using a swivel socket, but that's the only thing I have right in this shop. I'm not at the college right now to do this, and we want to tighten this nut to 120 inch-pounds. And what that's doing is locking that band over a drum inside. There we go. And now let's do the next one. And I'm holding that swivel tight. Like I say, I don't have the special socket with me, which I should have. And 120 inch-pounds right there. So both of the studs are tight. Now it's time to back these off. And this is the tricky part. You only have so much room up here. So I gotta rotate this stud 2 full turns. So the easiest thing to do is do quarter turns. So I'm gonna count 8 quarter turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm going to tighten that nut. And you got to hold that stud as you tighten the nut. Matter of fact, I'm going to try the open end. That way I don't have to fight this as much. So the open end is very good for this purpose. Here's the other thing is there's a torque spec for the nut. I think it was 36 foot-pounds, wasn't it, Mr. Lear? We'll look at it. But I just tighten these snug, and there we go. So tighten it to 120 inch-pounds and back it off 2 full turns. If you can't get a full turn of the wrench, do quarters or do halves and just count them. All right, so here we go. We're going to do quarter turns, okay? And we're going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to tighten this nut down. There we go. It's not ideal. If I had my way, I would like to get a full circle turn, and it makes it much more accurate. But I've never really had a problem counting in quarters or halves, especially when the transmission is inside the vehicle. So that's our adjustment. Now we can go ahead and put our neutral safety switch on, and we would adjust this neutral safety switch to neutral. So we need to shift this into neutral. So there's the spring, that's park, reverse, neutral. Adjust my, let me get the light so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. That's a good view right there. Right there. Put those 2 screws in. Put my screws back in here. I'm going to tighten this down before I put the linkage on. Good. Grab my shift linkage. Grab my cable, insert that into the bracket right here, and that will snap right into place. Make sure these little clips here lock in behind the bracket. These little clips do break, and then you have to get a new cable. And I'm done. And that was a good video to show you why we need to know how to adjust our neutral safety switch, because you could not get at this adjustment for the intermediate band without removing this. So I want to share with you where I got the information to do the band adjustment, to do the cable adjustment, to do the shift indicator adjustment. So this is just like an overview of what we've done, but how to find the information on AllData. So 2001, it's a Ford truck. It's a Explorer, 2-wheel drive, 4.0 liter. And then this is the main menus for the different systems. I want to go to transmission. And then I want to click automatic transmission. Okay, and then over here on adjustments, it will show you the 2 adjustments I made, which is the shift lever cable adjustment right here. And it will walk you through what I did, which was pop it off the shift linkage, pop the clip out for the adjustment, telling you what to shift it to, okay? I disagree with this. When I went to Ford training, they told me to shift it into neutral. And that's related to the neutral safety switch as well. But this one's telling you to manually shift it into the D position. You could do that. You'll still get the same result. And then it tells you to put the clip, push the locking clip back in, and that's the adjustment for the shift cable. For the shift indicator adjustment, okay. It's remove the upper instrument panel steering column cover, okay, but I had to remove underneath it the cowling in addition to the cover, okay. Just telling us to put the shifter assembly into the D position. I like neutral, but D, you'll still get the same result. And it's showing you where to turn the adjustment nut, and our cable bracket was broken right here. And that's why our indicator is still inaccurate as we speak, okay? So this is the actual problem with the indicator, is this mounting bracket is broken. So those are my 2 cable and indicator adjustments. So now let's go ahead and look at the other things that we covered, which was the band adjustment and also neutral safety switch adjustment. Now for the transmission range position sensor, I want to go over where I found how to adjust that. You go to automatic transmission here under the transmission and drivetrain. Okay, and then you're going to scroll down till you get to transmission position sensor switch right here. And these are hyperlinks. So I'm going to click R for repair. And then I want to go over procedure. Okay, it's telling you you need a special tool. I showed you a way to do it without the special tool. And disconnect the battery ground cable. It's always a good idea. If you're unplugging any sensor, we didn't unplug it, we just adjusted it. Raise the vehicle, disconnect the shift cable assembly, and then remove the manual control lever, disconnect the shift cable, Okay, and then you keep going down. Wants us to remove that lever, and then you have the two bolts, the 8 millimeter bolts that hold the sensor stationary and lock it in. It's telling us to remove that, which is fine. So this is a removal and installation. So then you'd replace it. Now we're on the installation side, and it wants us to adjust that collar until we get to a neutral position. And I showed you a way to do it because it's showing you with the special tool how to do it, which is fine. But you could do it with the little lines that are on the sensor, like I showed you. The two bolts are tightened to 89 inch-pounds. Just tighten them snug. It's fine. And then the nut for the lever is 30 to 40 foot-pounds. Again, just tighten it tight. And I just use the air ratchet for that. And this is where I found how to do the transmission range sensor adjustment and also how to remove it. And then here's the where you pop the cable back in and then pop it onto the lever. The last external adjustment we made was the bands. There was an intermediate band and an overdrive band. So this is how I found the information. Automatic transmission, clicked on that. And then right here is the band apply servo. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And then you see right here, you have the adjustments. You have the front band, which is the adjustment band, and then you have the intermediate band. So I'll click on the first one. This is the front band. There is a special tool and there are special sockets, but you could just use a 12-point socket to make it work onto the hex bolt, okay, or the square bolt. So anyways, it's showing you the same thing that I've been talking about with the shift cable. You do got to remove the cable to get access to these, okay? And then here's your two adjustments. We're doing the first one. And you got to loosen the lock nut, and then you want to tighten. After you loosen the lock nut, you want to tighten with a torque wrench the stud, the adjustment stud, to 10 foot-pounds. Okay, and then if you keep reading here, so this is the tighten front band adjustment screw using the band adjuster wrench. So there is a special wrench for it. And then you want to back up for the band adjustment screw. You want to back off the adjustment screw 2 turns and hold that position, and then tighten the jam nut or the lock nut to 35 to 44 foot-pounds. So that is what you do. You tighten the stud to 10 foot-pounds, back it off 2 turns, and then tighten the nut to 35 foot-pounds. Okay. And then for the intermediate band, it's the same thing. It's going to go through the same procedure. It does not tell us to remove the digital transmission range sensor. So I removed that. I did that just based on what I could tell was interfering with it, but without reading this. So I did the right thing. I removed that sensor so I get access to it. I tightened the stud to 10 foot-pounds, and then I backed it off to exactly 2 turns and held the position, and then tighten the lock nut to 35 foot-pounds. So those are my external adjustments with the transmission assembly that we covered in the video, and where you would find it using AllData. And again, I should conclude with this. I do think AllData has distinct advantages with transmissions. The other service manuals or online service databases, they fall a little short in the transmission area. I do find AllData to be more complete when it comes to transmissions.